Hey everyone, my name is Matt. Welcome to my shop. Today we're going to take a look at some specialty chisels for dovetailing and some modifications you can make to your existing chisels to make dovetailing a lot easier. Now you might be asking yourself, why do we need any kind of specialty chisel for dovetailing? Why won't a just standard bench chisel work just fine? And for the most of the process it will. This standard bench chisel will do most of the work, but there's some areas in the dovetailing process where this just isn't the most ideal tool for it. So let's take a look at the first example where this type of chisel, this bench chisel, isn't going to be ideal. In the case of making a tailboard, you need to remove the material between the tails. On the outside, it's not really that big of a deal because you can use your standard chisel to come in from the ends and get at that material. But in the middle, you're going to have some problems with a standard chisel. And this is why. On these standard chisels, the edges have flats on them. And those flats will prevent you from getting all the way up into the inside corner of this dovetail. Now if you do try and get your chisel all the way into this inside corner, the flat area on the bench chisel is actually going to mar the side of the tail, and that's going to not look as nice and crisp as a nice tight intersection between the base of the tailboard and then the side of the tail. Now there's a couple of solutions to that. The first one would be to buy a specialty chisel or just a higher end chisel that does not have the flats on the sides. And in fact, they still do have flats. They're technically there because if they weren't there, I wouldn't be able to do this without cutting my hand. So the specialty chisels or the higher end chisels will have very, very fine flats along the edges, and that will allow you to get right up into the inside corners of those dovetails without marring the side of the tail. Now if all you have is just the standard bench chisels and you don't want to go out and buy a new chisel just to do this process, you can actually modify your standard chisels to do this process a lot better. And that's really simple. All you do is take your chisel over to your grinder and just grind away the material on the sides. You can see on this chisel here I've done exactly that. I've just ground along the sides here just to create a smaller flat on the sides of the chisel, which will allow it to get into those corners a lot easier. That's a really simple modification you can do, and I think that it performs a lot better this way than if you have a big flat anyway. So let me show you an example of what happens when you try and use a standard bench chisel to clean up the inside corner of a dovetail. So you can really see the difference in crispness as you get down to this inside corner. On this side you can see all the fibers on the right side here are all dented and marred because of the flat on the chisel. On this side I didn't have that problem because these chisels that I use don't really have much of a flat on the side, so it's able to get right into the inside corner without messing up the side of the tail. And these dovetails aren't very steep. The steeper you have your dovetail set to, the worse this is going to be for you. Now the next dovetail operation where a specialty chisel or a specialty tool is going to come in really handy is when you're making a half-blind dovetail and you're trying to cut the half-blind sockets for your tailboard to go into. As you're coming in and you're trying to get into this inside corner, you're going to have a lot of problems with a chisel like this trying to get into that corner because you just can't get into the corner with this. It's just not physically possible. So there's a couple of options for that. And let me show you those to you. Now there are some really specialty chisels you can buy just for this purpose, and they might be handy for other things too, but I don't have any of them, so I made these sweet wooden models. The first thing I have here are a set of skew chisels. So you can see these, they're just beveled, well they're all beveled, but they're angled to the left and to the right, and these will allow you to get right into the inside corners without any problem. Now the downside to these is you need both a left and a right chisel because you need to get into both the right and the left side of the dovetail socket there. So you can also pick up one of these guys. This is called a fishtail chisel, and it's basically both skew chisels, both left and right skew chisels in one tool. And with this you can go in and just scoop in on both sides without a problem. Now like I said, I don't have any of these, but I do have these sweet wood ones. So how do I accomplish this? Well, I use a 1/8 inch and 1/16 inch chisel to get right into the corner. Now technically I'm not getting right into the corner with these, but I don't seem to have a problem clearing out enough material to get the joints to come together, because I always come in from the sides and clean up as well. So let me show you that. So here's what I do. On this one, I've already prepped the two sides and they're all chiseled back, and now I'm only working on the inside corner here. So what I do is I come in from the side a little bit, start removing some of this material like this, and then I use my small 1/8 inch chisel to come in and separate these fibers along the base there. So that's how I do it, but the skew chisels and the fishtail chisel will also work for you. And another thing to note about these is, of course, you can make your own by modifying one of your existing chisels. The skew chisels are really easy to make. You just grind the regular chisel at an angle. That angle doesn't really matter as long as you can get into the inside corner you're trying to get to. And the fishtail chisel is also really easy to make. All you have to do is grind away the area behind the bevel here, just to create some relief areas so you can actually get into the inside corners. Now these really tiny chisels are really handy for creating other dovetail joints. Going back to the tailboard, I like to create joints where the space between the two dovetails are really small, just because I think it looks a little more elegant. No real reason, just my own personal preference. And there's no way you can clean up this area in here with anything besides, or anything bigger than maybe a 3/16 inch chisel. That's about how big this one is. So this is even too small for a 1/4 inch chisel to work on. So that's why I have my 1/8 inch chisels. I always have on the bench because I'm always making stuff like this. So these little 1/8 inch chisels work out really well, and they're really handy for, you know, smaller, more intricate work that you might have in your shop. Now the last specialty chisel I have in my collection that I use a lot are these round back chisels from Ashley Isles. Now these are really thin, so they're able to get into some really tight areas. So for instance, if I wanted to clean up the side of this tail, I can come in through this gap here and clean this whole thing up. This is a little bigger, but on the smaller ones, I wouldn't even be able to get my normal size chisels in there. So like this, for instance, I can't get the chisel in there to clean up the sides of these tails here. So these round back chisels have no problem getting in between the tails here and allow me to clean up right down to the base of the tails. So I hope you found this information useful in your own hand-cut dovetail journey. If you want to take a look at all of my chisels in my collection, check out this video here that I did. I went through all the chisels that I have and talk about where you can get them and all that fun stuff. If you want to learn more about my own hand-cut dovetailing technique, check out this video I did here. It is about dovetailing a drawer, so I did both half-blind and through dovetails in that video. So thank you as always for watching. I greatly appreciate it. If you have any questions or comments about anything I tackled today with the chisels or anything else here in my shop, please feel free to leave me a comment. As always, I appreciate those, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have. And until next time, happy woodworking.